Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Perdue, and I am a nerd. And this is, excuse me, the February 2010 water cooler, which is our affectionate name for the virtual user group meeting. Today, we are talking about startup options in Tabs 3 and PracticeMaster. Mary Jo will cover that topic, and we flipped a coin, and she elected to go first. And I will be talking about getting data out of PracticeMaster and Tabs. And I'm going to focus on using the report writer to write a quick export routine or export report. But I'll also touch on the other ways to do that, other ways to get data out, because there are quite a few of them. Before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. You should probably have something on your screen somewhere, unless you already know what you're doing and you've minimized it, that looks a little bit like this. And what I want you to notice is that jutting off to the left of the big blue box is a little box that has three icons in it, maybe more, but at least three. And the one on the top looks like arrows that point to the right, and if you click that, it will knock the big box out of the way so that if that big box happens to be covering up part of my screen, this will get it out of the way so that you can see everything. Once you collapse that big box using that button will change to arrows that point to the left. The little box will still be there, and the arrows will now point to the left, and clicking that again will expose the big box or bring it back out into view. And you may want to do that if you are shy, because there's two ways you can ask questions. You can raise your hand using this other button that looks kind of like a hand with an up arrow in front of it. That means put your hand up. And when we notice that somebody's hand is up, we will break at an opportune time and unmute you and allow you to ask your question. However, if you are shy, you can also type questions into the big box where it says enter a question. So with that said, I'm going to minimize this, and I am going to maybe open up PracticeMaster. I don't know if Mary Jo needs it. We'll find out in just a second. And sign in and turn everything over to Mary Jo, who is going to talk to us today about startup options.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what startup options are and how to put those onto your machine. Many of you may not know, but you can set up startup options that when you boot up your computer, when you get in the morning, PracticeMaster or Tabs will automatically either sign you in, or you can set up different routines that you can have Tabs or PracticeMaster automatically run at a specified time, like a data file integrity check or certain reports or things like that. You can also pop up so that when you sign in, you're automatically logged in and it takes you to the calendar screen or your a certain report, like your daily report, so that you can see that. You can also have it automatically open a timer window. Things that, that way you don't have to sign in, then go navigate to it, and then pop it up. You can set these options to just do it automatically. So when you get in the morning, you're where you want to be. So I'm going to show you how to do that and how to actually set those up. And right now we are in PracticeMaster, and I'm going to go ahead and close that because we really want the icon. And we're going to right-click on wherever your PracticeMaster icon is. And we're going to go ahead and choose Properties. And then once you choose the properties, you're going to see where you have your target and your start in. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and we want to tell it to, when we start up, I'm having trouble clicking here. You want to
okay, I got it.
There. We're just going to, after the actual path of where our data is living, we're going to go ahead and just do a space, and we're going to go ahead and put in the username to just pop and log in automatically by this user. Now, a couple things to consider. If you have a password set up for your user, you won't be able to have it pop. It will pop up, and you'll have to manually put that password in. If you don't have a password, it will just go ahead and open the program. So if you want it to automatically log you in and you don't want to type anything, you need to take your password out, so you will not have that in there. Okay? Now, Paul does not have a password, so we're going to go ahead and just put in P. Perdue, and then we're just going to go ahead and we're going to say Apply. So I have a space and P. Perdue in there. and then we're going to go ahead and just hit OK. And then I'm going to have Paul go ahead and log us off and log us back in, and then it should just open PracticeMaster automatically.
And there it is. Now it does give me the warning that I'm using not set up for World Docs and not running it, and it tells me that I've got sample data. But if I did not have those two things, which you won't because you're not using sample data, and if you're set up to integrate with World Docs, you do have World Docs running, it'll take you right to this screen.
Now, you can also combine and do different, like let's say you want it to go ahead and pop and you want it to open your calendar. All you need to do is make sure you put a space and then a slash, whatever else it is that you want these functions to do. Some other things, like I said, you can automatically program PracticeMaster to run the data file integrity check at 11:30 every night. And you can do that. There's several different ones in here. There's also startups available in Tabs to run different data file integrity checks or force the user ID to go ahead and, each user to go ahead and log in automatically. You can.
What's the switch to run the calendar, Mary Jo? Is it calendar?
Yep, just calendar.
And how do you spell that? I hate to admit that I always get the EN or the AN.
C-A-L-E-N-D-A-R.
Yeah.
And it's not case sensitive, so you can type it in lower or uppercase. But we'll go ahead and have him off here.
And unfortunately, because we had those messages.
Did you log off first?
I did.
Oh,
Let's try this again real quick and see if we can get these messages out of the way before it tries to load the calendar. Yeah, you see what's happening is it's giving me these messages about sample data and saying, hey, you got to log into PracticeMaster before you can start the calendar. So this is one of those things where you'll have to go on faith. And of course, everyone has the utmost faith in Mary Jo and Paul. Faith that when you put that in there, it will take you right to your calendar.
Okay.
Mary Jo, where do we go and help to find out about this?
I just went to Help Topics, and then I went to the type what you're searching for.
In the index or in the search?
Either one. You can do it in the index, and then just start typing startup. And there's several different startup options. And here's the list for PracticeMaster. If you scroll down there, you can see, there's all kinds of different programs that you can go ahead and start automatically right here just by adding the slash, whatever it would be. Okay.
One that we use in the new product that we're working with called Work Tracker, or that Work Tracker uses, I should say, is to automatically import data. Work Tracker actually starts PracticeMaster and automatically imports your fee transactions when it needs to do that. And it is using this /import startup option to do that. We have other clients that have automated tasks. There's a foreclosure firm in Michigan that gets cases assigned to them by their bank customers throughout the night, and Outlook throws these cases out to a special file that is then imported automatically into PracticeMaster using this import startup option. There's a lot of neat stuff you can do.
So
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
That's okay. So this is where you can go and get an actual list of all the available startup options that are out there. And then if you need to go in and find out, how to actually add one, you can either click down here at adding a startup option, or each of these will let's go back up to the top here. If you go to the very first user ID, it will, if you click on bypass the user ID prompt, it will give you all the instructions that you need here. So again, you can see that we're in the target, and then we're just doing a space and then the user ID. Will need to be set up by individual, so you can't just have everybody log in on each of their computers with one setup. You need to go to each computer and set it up that way for each user, and then it will do it for them.
Because the icon lives on that desktop of each individual machine.
Any questions on that?
Let's go look. We do not have any hands raised. Nope, no questions. Must have been very clear.
And if any of you do want to have it set up and you're having trouble, give us a call. Paul and I will definitely be able to help you do that.
That's the kind of question we can usually answer in an email and not have to charge anybody. So yeah, if you do have questions and it's not working for you, just email us paul.purdue, like the school, not the chicken, Purdue, at attorneycomputersystems.com, and then either Mary Jo or I will reply and help you out.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to talk about getting data out of PracticeMaster and into, oh, I do have a hand raised.
I just see that too. We've got a question.
So let's take, now Ellen, I was going to say you're muted.
Yeah, Heather also has asked the same question. How do you take off your password? That's in system configuration under your user ID. So you'll have to have a manager go in and actually bring up your user ID in system configuration and then remove your password there, and then just save your user information that way. Okay?
Now, did Ellen ask that question also, or? I think she is muted and needs to be unmuted. Hold on one second. I can't click the right button to save my life. Okay, Ellen, you should be unmuted. Are you there?
We can't hear Mary Jo. She keeps fading in and out.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Okay.
Mary Jo, you'll need to talk up if you end up talking anymore.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Ellen. And let's see. Anything else? And we answered Heather's question. Okay. Very good. We'll put the hands down and we'll get rid of the questions. And I'll talk about data. Now, Todd, I hope you're out there because you prompted this. We have a client in Battle Creek that is moving, I guess, across the street. That's the way it was presented to me. And there are times when you want to get information out of PracticeMaster or Tabs in such a way that you can work with it in another program. In this particular example, Todd's firm is moving, so they want to send an announcement. And they want to send it not only to their clients, but they want to send it to people that are, if you're using PracticeMaster, you know that there's this thing called the Related Parties file that holds names and addresses of people that aren't necessarily clients, but are people that the firm works with, like accountants or financial planners or other attorneys or all sorts of different things. So what Todd wants to do, and what people quite frequently want to do, is send something to their clients and perhaps people from related parties, either by printing labels and applying them to an envelope, or simply by merging and taking that data and merging it with an envelope and printing envelopes directly. There are a lot of reasons to want to get stuff out of PracticeMaster. I have people that want to, I got one firm that writes trust checks, hundreds of them, to the same firm, this other firm that they're referring work to, because the clients have come to this firm, they've given them trust money, and then the work gets referred to another firm, and they want to keep track of that by primary attorney. Well, trust doesn't keep track of primary attorney, so we need to pull the data from two places, Tabs and trust, and kind of merge it together to get a report that shows by primary attorney all the checks that were written to this one payee in trust accounting. That's an example. Sometimes people want to take reports that they get out of General Ledger or Accounts Payable or Tabs and format them differently, or maybe just add one different calculation, or maybe at the bottom have a summary that's not provided by the report that's already there. There are a lot of ways to get data out. The way we're going to look at is the quick and dirty, the simple way, and it is particularly appropriate for firms that need to send an invitation to an open house or a Christmas card or an announcement that they're moving or that they have a new associate to a bunch of people, including clients and related parties. But there are other ways to get data out, and that's why I'm babbling. There is something called the ODBC drivers. They cost $99 for each workstation you need them on, and you usually only need them on one. And what those do is they expose all the tabs and AP and GL and PracticeMaster data to other programs that are capable of reading ODBC data. I know ODBC is a nerd term, but what that means is if you have the ODBC drivers and you've installed them properly, then other programs like Microsoft Access or Excel or Quattro Pro or Crystal Reports or a host of other programs can see that data and can report on it. And that can be very, very neat if you have very specific needs that you need to access over and over again, maybe on a weekly or a monthly basis, or you need to take data and put it in some form that PracticeMaster or Tabs doesn't already deal with. Another way is that in the latest versions of Tabs3 and PracticeMaster and AP and GL, every report is now not only savable in a PDF format, but also savable in an Excel format. So you can take a general ledger report listing all your journal entries for a certain period, and instead of printing it, you can save it to Excel and pull it up in Excel and then work with it further through Excel. Or many other programs can read these Excel-type files like Access or certain other programs, so you can do things with data that way. That said, I'm not really going to talk about ODBC drivers or saving to Excel. Those may be topics for future virtual user group meetings. I'm going to tell you real quickly how to create a report in PracticeMaster that will pull out, let's say, all your related parties. I want their name, address, city, state, zip, and let's say phone number. So I'm going to go into Reports, and I'm going to click on Report Writer. And you're going to see some things in here that may seem unfamiliar and a little bit frightening, but what I'm doing is I'm giving you a general idea, and if you need help, you can call us. If you're feeling bold, you can poke around and help, or just poke around. If you start with a new report, nothing you can do is going to mess you up. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this related party list right here, and instead of modifying that, we're going to right-click on it and choose Copy. And it's going to ask us for a new name. Now, this is this short 8-character name. So I'm going to say RP Test 3, because this one that I'm editing or copying is RP Test 2. So I'm going to call it RP Test 3 and say OK. Then I'm going to modify. And I am now, oh, this is a category report. Hold on one second. I'm not paying attention. Let's do this. Let's copy this report. This is what happens when you don't practice ahead of time. RP _ def DET 01. I'll call it that. And I'm anal retentive, so I'll make sure that that R is capital, even though it doesn't matter. There we go. Now I'll go in and modify this. Now we have a report that already deals with the related party file. So it's already been set to deal with related parties. In the report writer, you have 4 tabs. The main tab, where you decide that you're either going to print a report in detail or summary, or what we're doing is we're exporting. And there are different ways to export. You can export a Word merge file, a Word perfect merge file, or a comma quote delimited file. These are sometimes in
Paul, I'm going to interrupt you there because
Mm-hmm.
that's no longer necessary to do that, because when you do the print option,
And you print it that way?
the print, so you
Okay.
don't even need to worry about export as anymore. It's just
Okay.
on detail or summary,
Okay.
unless you're dealing with a version prior to 15.
Which some people might. We may have
Mhm.
people with 14.3 or 14.1.
Right.
So
Like that.
you don't need this now in the latest version of Tabs3 and PracticeMaster, which is what we're in. But if you're in an earlier version, you need to say export as comma quote delimited. The reason is that if we go and save this and go to print, it'll give us as an option the ability to print to a file. And one of the types of files is CSV. So that's what Mary Jo is talking about. I'm going to go ahead and get back in here. But if you don't have that version that's going to allow you to do that right there on the print screen, this is necessary. User-defined fields, I'm not going to get into these because you might or might not have them, and they really kind of bog down the process. You probably won't have them in a very simple report that's going to export data, so we're not really going to talk about them. Query, if you've worked at all with filters in PracticeMaster, there are ways to say, well, just show me the clients for Timekeeper 1, where Timekeeper 1 is, primary timekeeper is Timekeeper number 1, or where originating timekeeper is Timekeeper number 3. A query is a way to narrow your data down. And again, this particular discussion, since I only have 15 or 17 minutes to talk about it, I'm not really going to get into how to define a query or what a query entails, but I'm going to tell you that this is where you would go to say, I only want to pull the related parties that are judges, or I only want to pull the clients for whom originating timekeeper is 3 because he's retiring. Whatever the case may be, that's what happens in query. And then image layout is a place where you get to say what it is that you want to appear. Now, if you start with a pre-existing report, it's going to have all sorts of garbage in here, and I'm going to take all this garbage and delete it, because all we're going to do is have a report that pulls out the name and address and the city, state, zip, and perhaps the phone number. So I'm taking everything out. I'm taking out all of these items all the way through, and I'm doing this by clicking on them and then hitting delete, and yes, I do want to delete. You also may have a bunch of sorts, and whether or not you need them, I'm going to take them out. You may have one sort that says sort on RP key, which happens to be the name usually of the related party. So I'm going to leave that one in. You end up with an ascending sort. You don't even need the footer. Well, I guess we do because it's part of the ascending sort, and the detail image. Detail is where the data goes. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a couple fields. I'm going to pull the name, and I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to pull the organization and click OK. I'm going to, and this field, this button right here means add field. I'm going to pull the address 1, and we're going to assume that it's only one line addresses for simplicity. The city, the state, and the zip. I don't see, well, here it is, work phone. We'll pull the phone too, even though we're doing a mailing list. And what you end up with is a detail image that shows you phone, zip, state, city, address 1, company, and name of related party. Very simple. We don't have a query because we don't have time to get into that. We don't have anything but one sort, which means sorted on RP key, which means these are going to come out basically in alphabetical order by whatever you've put in as the key for that related party. If you have Paul Purdue at Attorney Computer Systems and you stored the RP key as Purdue/Paul, then that record's going to come out in the PURs. If you instead stored that record with a related party key of Attorney Computer Systems, that record's going to come out in the A's. It has to do with how you set up your related parties and how you use your keys. But the bottom line is this report will drop out to a CSV file that we can then pull very easily into Excel. The name, company, address, city, state, zip, and phone for everybody that's in my related parties file.
We'll want to change your column format up here to column layout instead of the detail up here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that was, yes.
Yes,
thank you. If you have it in this format where it's not showing the names of the fields up above, you'll want to make sure that you switch from what we call non-column mode to column mode. In some of your reports, if people print reports in PracticeMaster, you'll notice that one record may take up more than one line on the report. That's what we call a non-column mode report. You may have a record that takes up, a third of a page because you're showing all this different detail, and then it goes on to the next calendar item and the next calendar item. A column mode report is only going to have one line per record, so it's a much more concise report, and it's what you want to do for this data export sort of thing. I'm going to go ahead and take a chance here, and I'm going to print this, and I'm going to save it on the way. These are just some fields that come in just because I'm sorting by RP key and because it originally had RP category. I don't need that, so I'm going to leave these blank, and they're going to bring in all the data from the related party file. And I'm going to tell it I want to preview this, and I'm going to zoom as much as I can, which I think is it 300%? Yes. And hopefully everybody can see that. We now have what looks like kind of like a data file, which is exactly what it is, where we have Stephanie J. Brown surrounded by quotes, Brown Court Reporting Services surrounded by quotes, and a comma between each field. So we have each field listed with quotes around it and a comma between, and this is what we call a comma-separated value, or a CSV file. And if you open up Excel and pull this file in, it'll come right in. If you save it and give it a name that ends in .csv, you can just click on it usually, double-click on it in Windows, and it'll open Excel with this file right there on the screen. Let me show you that. I'm going to go back, close, and I'm going to rerun this report and do File. And I'm not going to open after save because I'm going to want to show you how that works. And now you may be thinking, he was looking at this report on the screen. why didn't he just click print at the bottom? This is a very important distinction because it has to do with problems that people sometimes encounter. If you are looking at a report on the screen, it has been formatted for your screen. And if you click print from there, it's not going to take anything into account about how that data should be formatted if you're going to print it to your laser printer or if you're going to save it to the computer. It is not a good idea to hit print from that screen unless you know of the possible ramifications of the report not looking or acting the way you're expecting as if you had printed it directly to the printer. So I always get out of the view, out of the display, out of the preview mode, and go back here and restart my printing when I want to go from a report that I'm viewing to one that I'm printing. It has to do with the printer driver that's being used and how it's displaying versus how it's going to print. I'm going to tell it I want to save it to a file. I'm going to tell it to save it to just to my desktop, and I'm going to call it test.csv, and I'm going to tell it that I want to store it as a text file. This .csv is important because it will tell Windows to use Excel to open this up. Todd comes from a firm that still uses Novell and GroupWise products, and WordPerfect and Quattro Pro. Todd, I don't know if that's going to, I think that might work the same way with Quattro Pro, recognizing that CSV and pulling it right up. There we go. We're going to save it. We're going to minimize this. We're going to see that we now have this test CSV file. It even has the kind of an Excel icon because Windows recognizes that this is a file that can be used in Excel. We double click on it. Our computer loads Excel and pulls in that file. Here's your Excel tip for the day. People know in Excel that they can resize columns this way, and some people know that if you double click on the right here, it'll make this column, this one that you're double clicking on the right border of in the header, it'll make that column as big as you need. But did you know that if you click here in the corner to block everything and then double click on that right border, it expands all the columns to make them as big as you need? I didn't know that. That was my tip of the day a year ago, so it's your tip of the day today. And now we have it. Stephanie Brown, Brown Court Reporting. There's her address. She's in Lincoln, Nebraska. There's her zip. There's her phone. Some of these records don't have phones, but that's just the way they were in the system. This is an example of having pulled out all the related parties into a quick and dirty CSV file that we can then do whatever we want with. If you're good with Word merges or Word Perfect merges, you can merge directly with this CSV file. If you are specifically doing a Word or Word Perfect merge, you can actually save to that file format by editing that first screen that I showed you where Mary Jo pointed out that we didn't need to specify comma-separated values. You could change it to Word Perfect merge or Word merge, and it would create that actual merge file. But within here, you can do anything you want. You can edit it. You can say, oh, well, this guy's a jerk, and we're not going to send him an announcement that we're moving, so we just take him out of the file. If it's a good place to look and make sure that your data is all lined up, and a good way for you to be able to pull data out and work with it in just about any program that's going to read a CSV file, and that pretty much is any program that's going to allow you to mass mail or do Christmas cards or do labels or do whatever it is. Are there any questions, Mary Jo?
No questions right now.
Okay, good. Well, that's the very simplest way to get data out of PracticeMaster to use in another program. And I know I covered in about 15 or 20 minutes what I probably should have taken maybe 30 to 60 minutes to cover, simply because you can filter your data. You can say, I just want timekeeper 1, or I just want originating timekeeper to be number 4. You can get fancier and, for instance, pull the city, state, and zip into one field by using user-defined fields. You can do a lot of things to lay out your data differently, and you can even pull in different records at the same time. Maybe you want calendar items that are assigned to a specific related party, or calendar items that are assigned to a specific client. But that's the quick and easy, quick and dirty way to get stuff out of PracticeMaster. You create a report, you save it as a file, and all of a sudden you've got something that can be pulled into Excel or anything that can read a CSV file. Go into Help and search for ODBC or Save As, and you'll be able to find information about the other two ways that I mentioned, and you can do a little studying to see if those are appropriate to what your needs are. But if there aren't any more questions, then we'll go ahead and close the February 2010 virtual user group meeting that we affectionately call the water cooler. Everybody have a good afternoon, and we will see you next month. Thanks a lot.